Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Indigo podcast. I'm your host, Diana Min. I'm super excited to be back here with you guys. So excited to have my prior client, Jocelyne Macias, on here as our special guest today. She is also a life coach. So, Jocelyne, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I feel like this series of my podcast of me just bringing in we were just talking a little bit about my star students, right? And having you guys who really worked with me, who really know my work inside and out, who are walking this path, who are doing this transformative work, not only for yourself, but now sharing that with others. I think is such an important message to send out to people that it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you're starting. It doesn't matter what you've been through, that you can transform your life. And if it's possible for me to do it, it's possible for you to do it, then it's possible for anybody to do it. And so,
Yes, it is. I totally agree because who I am today is not who I was 2 years ago. Definitely.
yeah, and we're going to get into that because your journey has been an inspiring one, and I've spent a lot of time on my podcast talking about my journey, and I love it because it is such a Phoenix rising journey. And I think everybody in their life has that story. And I really want to spend time highlighting how much of my clients really walk that same journey of really being that Phoenix rising from the ashes, right? And really finding their light again after such dark times. And so I I kind of want to talk to you a little bit more about just kind of where you were when you were looking for support, or when you were finally in that place of like, I can't do this by myself. And maybe I've been walking around in circles, in the same loops, in the same cycles, and that breaking point for you when you were like, I need help. Because we've all had that point.
Yes, we do all have that point, and I think it's just a very small amount of people that actually make a change in it. I think a lot of us are living through that still. For me, I think a lot of people can relate, but I would wake up every morning feeling doubtful. I would wake up depressed, like not grounded, always just in chaos. And chaos was what I craved. And that was what made me go. Basically, it was what filled my cup, which is kind of ironic, right? Because I did not have my cup filled, but I felt like as long as I was around chaos, things were just messy, everything was all over the place, I was arguing with my boyfriend, then I was living. But in reality, I just didn't know any other way to live. I didn't know any other habits to take on. So before working with a life coach, I was honestly all over the place. I was not authentic. I was pretending to be someone that I wasn't. I would hide behind my physique a lot. So I come from the fitness industry, having abs, having muscles, easy to hide behind them. They look good, right? I was completely just in what I would call it like a hurricane. It was getting bigger and bigger as I was getting older too. And as I was perceiving new opportunities, it seemed to just want to just explode even more. And I was just lost of identity. I had no idea who Jocelyne really was.
Yeah. And it feels like that chaos was probably just modeled to you as a child, because obviously I know a lot about your childhood and your upbringing. And when we are modeled chaos as a normalcy in our childhood and in our upbringing and around us, in our parents and our siblings, we're like, well, this is normal. This is what it's supposed to be like. And so anytime in your life when you don't have chaos, you're actually going to start to create it, because when you don't have chaos, you're like, something's off. Something's not right. You actually needed the chaos at that time to feel safe and comfortable. So it was more familiar to your nervous system.
So even when things were going really, really good, and I think we talked about this in our sessions a lot, I would create it. You're right. I would completely create it. I mean, I would start crap for no reason with my boyfriend. And it was a beautiful day. We were really hitting it off. And I was like, let me just start crap because this is so unfamiliar. And I rather feel the chaos than have to predict what will I feel like if I was just at peace and happy, right? I had no idea what that unknown looked like. But I knew what the chaos, what the outcome would be. We don't talk for a few hours. We're pretending. And, sometimes we would go to the gym and it was like, I hit the best workout from being angry at my boyfriend. And I was like, that's not the type of juice that I want.
Yeah.
Like not the type of adrenaline that I want. I don't want to keep living through survival. I want to thrive through being authentic, being genuinely happy. Even if I didn't feel happy every day, I just wanted to be okay with how I felt every day. And if that wasn't sadness and chaos and whatever the other side looked like, I wanted to just rest in it. I wanted to rest in it. I didn't want to continue to be fight or flight. It's just, it's draining.
Yeah. And that's crazy because all your nervous system knew was being in fight or flight. All your nervous system knew was feeling unsafe, and feeling chaos, feeling all of this messiness around you. And so, we talked a lot about us being addicted to suffering, right? And suffering is such an addiction that a lot of people don't realize that they are so hooked to, right? Because the minute that, like you're saying, like that you had peace or things were going well and you guys were having a great day, you're just like, this feels so unfamiliar that it actually feels unsafe to my nervous system. So I have to do something to like push it away. And it's crazy because a lot of times I would say the majority of people live like that. They are asking for positive experiences, peace, love, fulfillment, happiness. But in reality, on an energetic level, on a spiritual level, on a frequency level, they're actually repelling it because they haven't done the work to reprogram what is safe for me and reprogram their nervous system to familiarize themselves with what peace, happiness, stability looks like. And so that work is such, its journey on its own. And it's a lot of the work that we've done together. And I'm sure also the work that you do on your own. So I really want to share with people that are listening that may be in that place, like, how do we really get to that place, right? And I speak a lot about this, about my own journey too. It really was about finding support for me. And when I found that support and when I started to do the work, along with the work that we've done with sacred plant medicine, ayahuasca, it really started to quantum leap me beyond into new realms of existence, new realms of consciousness, new realms of being, new realms of safety in my nervous system. So going back to kind of where you were like, okay, chaos is around me. Everything is depressing. I'm upset. I'm always angry. I'm fighting. So for you, when you started to kind of seek something or support or help outside, tell me a little bit how that journey went, because I know there were some pitfalls before we found each other. So tell me a little bit about how that went for you.
Okay, so of course I've done therapy in the past and I was like, okay, this is not taking me from here to here, what I really wanted, right? What I really thought I can accomplish, because I was so tired of my own crap at that point. Extremely tired of my own crap. I did not like what I seen in the mirror and I did not like the person that I was participating in this world, honestly. And so in the beginning I said, I started to come across spirituality, did a first plant medicine ceremony, and I needed integration. So I was like, I'm going to hire a life coach. I've been hearing about this all over social media. Let me do this investment. It's my time. I was 24 years old, by the way. It's my time. I got this. I had the money for it. I found someone online who happened to be your assistant, actually. And I did not know that was your assistant until after, right? And I invested into her and then ended up realizing that she was not equipped to take on my case, but still ended up taking it on. And that took time to realize. That was after, I wasn't okay myself. I wasn't aware myself. I was wired completely into survival mode. So I was trauma bonding with her, honestly.
Wow.
It was kind of like, I can tell that I triggered her with a lot of my situations. And I can tell that she wanted to find the solution. She wanted to find my solution, and she just wanted me to move forward. And I believe that as a life coach, you're not finding the solutions for them. You're empowering them to make their own decisions. And you're empowering them to trust in themselves, to move forward in the way that that's going to work for them. Right. So she was doing a lot of just like Reiki and all these things that actually turned into a trend. And it's kind of sad that it's a trend now, but there is a lot of people that are authentically doing it. I'm not going to say there's not, but I do remember in one of our sessions, like she did a Reiki on me, and she asked me, did you see any colors? Like, were you able to were you able to see anything? How was the Reiki? And I said, I saw like pink at some point. And the excitement that I saw from her, it was like a first timer, right? There was so much beginning to that. So her asking me what happened during that Reiki session made me realize that there was no experience behind her. I was her experience. I was who she was experimenting with. And see, this is where it gets nasty. It's not authentic. It's not integrity, because I wasn't in a place to be experimenting. I was in a place to change. I needed someone to show up for me. I needed help. I needed support. I needed validation. I needed everything in the book at that point. So when I realized that she used to be not only your assistant, but she was also your client, and I started to put everything together, and that's how I came across you. I watched a video where she was participating in a retreat, and I said, who is this Diana? And I'm watching this video. She's in the retreat, she's participating, and then I put the dots together. She used to be your client, and everything just started having like a ripple effect, right? It might have not been the right ripple effect, but it had it. It was there. And that's when I decided to go out of my way, still being coached by her, just kind of to get my own context and everything. I went and I hopped on a call with you. And I said, hey, it was a discovery call is what I would call it. And that's where I just straight asked you, hey, this person, I invested into them. This is what's going on. And that ended up being where you ended up telling me that she actually never even finished coaching with you. So that was it. That was the red flag for me. I said, if you're not able to make it all the way through with the life coach, then you're going to go and become a life coach. That's not okay.
Yeah.
You got to do the inner work before you go and help somebody else. And so I now say that was meant to happen, because that's how I came across you. Right?
Yeah.
You. That's how you came into my life. And that's where I started to see that there was life coaches that were capable of taking on my case. I mean, I got to a point where I was like, am I just too much? Do I not have space to take in somebody's, like, not even if I'm paying them?
Yeah.
That makes you feel even smaller than what you were already feeling. I came to you, I was small. I was thinking in my darkness really bad. I was afraid to invest too. I mean, this just happened. I'm not ready to invest again, but I know I needed the help. So that was a journey. That was a journey of finding out what life coach I wouldn't invest into and what life coach I do not want to become.
Yes. Oh God, I know. Every still, even though I was there, even when I I hear your journey, because I can feel that that was a very traumatic time for you. And you experience what we call coach trauma, right? Because being somebody's coach is not some frivolous thing. It really is such a deep trust. It is such a sacred contract. It is such an emotional connection. It is a bond, right? And especially with the work that, I intend to do in the world, like it's like you and I, even though we don't work together anymore, like you're part of my tribe, right? Like, and you feel that, right? Like, everybody that's ever worked with me in my life from now until forever. It's like you're part of my family, right? Because we become like a soul family. Now, when people treat coaching like it's this trendy thing to do, which happened, right? It happened during the pandemic where people were like, "Oh, how can I work from home and also make money online?" Right? It's like, well, everybody's becoming a life coach. I might as well do it too. It became very dangerous, and it did become, like you said, out of integrity, and becomes very dark because, like you said, she was experimenting with you, but you needed help, you needed support, you needed real trauma work. And for her not having done her own trauma work and thinking that because she was my assistant and she was doing a lot of my marketing and a lot of my branding at the time, and she was running a lot of my operations within my business. And so when she saw that, how, you know, unfortunately, the monetary aspect is like a huge part of my business that people really model and look after. But the reason that I have such financial success in my business is because I did my own work underground for 5 or 6 years, not even peeking my head into social media for a minute before I ever stepped in. Like 5, 6 years underground, came online, and I was like, maybe I can help somebody, anybody, right? And I just started like trying, like sharing, right? But 5, 6 years underground, like that was me doing my work, really, really diving deep into my own healing, my own trauma, my own journey of building who I was, my skills, my own gifts, right? Because I had to be my first VIP client. I had to experiment on myself. And that's who should always be the person you're experimenting on if you're on this journey, right? And I think when I had, that groups and specifically come into the retreat, which was the ayahuasca retreats that I do and still do. Now I take them. I take people to Peru. Um, it was, I think, a lot of times when people step into sacred plant medicine, 1, 2 times, they're like, "I'm healed. I'm ready." I've got everything I need. And it's like, that's not how sacred plant medicine works, right? Like anything, it's a journey of unfolding. And we are many, multi-layered beings. And you may have healed a layer, you may have arrived at a level, which not going to take that away from anybody, but there's always going to be more. And I think what happened was when she saw that, oh, I can just create some branding and marketing for Diana, and she can make, 20,000 a month. So I can make some branding and marketing for myself, and I can make 20,000 a month. It'll be easy, not knowing all the footwork that I put in before that it's my frequency, it's my energy, it's my authenticity, it's my medicine. And so, unfortunately, her and I parted on, kind of like on bad terms because it out of integrity from leaving the business, out of integrity of me telling her like, hey, I don't think you're ready, and her just kind of wanting to do her own thing. So when you came to me and you're on the sales call with me, I'm like, my first thought is this a setup? Like, I was like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? Because like her and I had just parted ways, I would say like 2-ish, 3 months ago. And then you're on this call with me and you're like, yeah, I'm working with this coach. And you mentioned her name and I was like, am I like, like one of those, like, am I on this hidden camera shows right now? And so but after talking to you, I started to really feel for you because I've also had coach trauma, and I think it's hard not to have coach trauma. And this is, I always say this, like, I wish there was a Yelp page where everybody can like rate their coaches, so we can look like, I don't want to go eat at a bad restaurant if I know the food and the service is going to be terrible. I don't want to do that, and I don't feel like we have that in our industry really, because I've had coach trauma, but like you, I've also learned a lot from it. I learned who I didn't want to be. I learned what kind of coach I did want to be. I learned what I didn't want to do, and I learned what was in alignment for me. And also it built my discernment of like, not everybody who is older than me or further along in the journey than me knows better than me, right? And it taught me that the best guidance is the trust within myself, and my ability to discern whether this is for me or not. And so it really stripped away the blind trust that I had in other people and the lack of trust that I had within myself.
Yes. Yes, I agree 100% because that is exactly. And when you shared that with me, I was like, okay, well, I feel better now to know that I wasn't the only one that just is going out into the world trusting anybody, right? And I'm just like, yeah, take my money, but fix me, like it was such a I was in a desperate place. I was in a vulnerable, desperate place where I was like, I'm willing to do anything. Anything you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. And me as your coachee, I am like that. You tell me to do something, see if this works for you. I'm going to go do it and I'm going to receive my feedback and I'm going to adapt it into my life. And so then, just how you said it was, so now she got removed from my life, right? Just as she got removed from your life. And I still needed help. I was still in the same place. I was still suffering. I was still participating in my own suffer. I had a lot of responsibility in everything that I was experiencing, what I was creating, the frequency I was on. I was going down. And I mean, if I wasn't already down, I was going even more down after that. And I really, really, really needed help. And so 2 years later, it was 2 years later, which is crazy. During those 2 years, I'm going into ayahuasca ceremonies. And just how you said, I'm like, this stuff is going to fix me. I'm not going to invest in anyone. This stuff is going to fix me. I'm going to do as many ceremonies as I can handle because it is a lot. And I'm just going to keep going into ceremony. And, it felt like bliss 2 weeks after ceremony. And then I was back. And then I was like, go back to ceremony. I just need to go back to ceremony.
Yeah.
Go to ceremony again. The bliss would last 1 week, 2 weeks now. Then I was back into my old habits. I was medicating with marijuana. I was suppressing more and more, even after ceremonies, because everything that was coming up was now even becoming more. So I was now allowing more to surface up as I was living through the trauma still. So I decided that I needed to get a life coach. And after meeting you in person, after working with you and just other courses online and all the discovery calls that you gave me, which I'm so grateful for, and your patience and everything, when I met you in person, the same person I met in person was the same person online. And it was just like, you were just so authentic. And I was like, I need to work with Diana and I'm going to work with Diana. And I made that a 2023 goal after 2 years of already knowing about you. I said, I'm going to make it a goal. And I wrote down on a piece of paper my 2023 goals last year. And I said, work with Diana and many other goals that I had. And I finally got the opportunity to work with you. And I just remember being on our call and I said, Diana, I think the number one thing I need to do is integrate all these ceremonies that I thought were going to fix me. So I did so many ceremonies that I had no integration on. I did not know what integration meant. I pretended that I knew what it meant. And I really was going out into the world like, I'm healed, guys. Like, try this medicine. It's so good, and do integration. But I had no idea what I was talking about. I was not, I was authentic, and I can be so real about that. Um, so then working with you, everything is, now it's time. Now it's time to let loose. I said, I'm gonna let it all out. I'm gonna purge it all out and see where this takes me working with Diana. And oh my, was it a journey? Oh,
That is so beautiful. Let's back it up a little bit just because I want the listeners to really get some context of like where you're coming from because the word trauma is thrown around so often. And so few questions I want to have. Can you describe as succinctly as you can and kind of like an overview of what was your trauma as you feel comfortable, right? Because I want the listeners to really understand that like this wasn't some like your parents didn't show up to your cheerleading game or something, right? Like this is like real trauma that you had. And then I want to talk about what was the major block for you, although you knew you needed to work with me, the biggest block for you, because I kind of know what it is, but I want them to feel like to relate because I think so many people are where you were, like, yeah, I have trauma. Yes, I need help, but this block, right? And then they never get it. So share a little bit more about that.
okay. So far of my trauma, it was just a lot of child trauma, right? It was a lot of my childhood. So it was sexual abuse as a child. It was, the absence of my mother and just not having her, as she wasn't completely absent. She was there. She was my mother, but not as how I needed her to show up for me, right? So like the love, the affection, all of that of just being in a safe place with my mother. It was abusive relationships. It was, not being able to create. That one was hard. That one was hard to really accept. Was that my creativity was completely out of the window. It was lack of validation, people pleasing. All this trauma started to have an effect on how I was as an adult. So I went through so much darkness as a child that I thought would be left behind. And I said, well, I'm not a child anymore. It's fine. It comes with you. It all comes with you. And guess what? It will appear the most during your relationships. And I'm not talking about just about partners. I'm talking about your friends, your work, and your partner. And I was just not, I was not who I was showing I was. I don't think people realize how bad it was because of how much of a mask I wore and how much I pretended to be okay. But it was causing all that chaos that I told you I was causing on myself. It was going all into my relationships, which I did not like, and I can see it. That was the problem. I can see it. And my inner child needed, affection and love that I was willing to show up for. Not only was my mother not, but now I wasn't showing up for her either. And I want to say that my biggest breaking point for me was the lack of being seen. I was not being seen. I was, how do I say it without, I felt like I was not human. Like I was not participating anymore in this world. I was going through so much depression, anxiety, borderline personality that I was so unaware of. A lot of suicidal thoughts, like just, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to have to pretend that I'm okay. This seems like it's a good exit. Let's just take that exit. And I want to say the biggest breaking point was just wanting to be seen. I wanted to make something out of myself and I couldn't. I was not in the place to. I was just, like things were happening in my life and this was me. It was like I was trying to lean on to whoever can hold me, and nobody is able to be responsible for your trauma. So I was getting thrown back and forth exactly like that. And I had no foundation for myself. I had no, I wanted everyone to show up for me, but I was not showing up for myself at all.
Yeah. I will say, you said you wanted to be seen, but even on our first discovery call, like I hopped on with you and I knew immediately you had borderline personality disorder. And that's not a bad thing because I've had borderline, I had borderline personality disorder and I've healed from it through all the work that I've done. And I remember asking you on that call, I said, when you get into these episodes with your boyfriend, like who does he become? And you looked at me like with your eyes wide open. You're like, how did you know that he becomes this other person, like he becomes my abusive mother or another abuser that you had in your childhood? And I'm like, because you're having a PTSD episode, you're having a borderline episode, and I know what that's like because I've had those and I know exactly, it transports you. You're not present anymore, you're in a different place. And that's the thing, it's like why you and I were destined to work together is because you needed someone that understood your trauma inside and out.
Yes.
And the reason that I feel like our synergy was so perfect was because you were such a reflection of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had the majority of the traumas that you've had. I have a lot of the issues and the anxieties and the borderline all that you had, and I have already transcended them. So when I came in and I saw you in your darkness and I saw you in your spiral, I was like, I just opened up a door and like, here's the exit. Here's how to get out. Here's how to untangle that. And you're like, whoa, like, how did you know that? And it's like, you can only know that if you've been in the trenches yourself, which is why it's so important, just going back to our last point, to really find somebody that is in alignment with you, is a fit for you, and to really know that they understand you and your journey and where you've been and where you want to go. So
And I
I
think
say for me also, I would say for me, for the audience, whenever you're looking to hire someone, the number one thing you want to look is at their personal life and say, is this person living the life that I would want to live? Are they living in alignment with the values and the principles that I hold dear? And that is how you try to find like that alignment of if this is somebody that you want to learn from. But sorry, continue.
No, yeah, I agree 100%. And I think I missed that. You're right. I was having PTSD episodes. So when I would break into arguments with my boyfriend or even have a reaction to somebody else that I had a disagreement with, they no longer were that person. I was now living in the past. I was to the point where when I would get in arguments with my boyfriend, that he would turn into one of my abusers so quickly that I would be screaming in my room. I would be screaming and crying uncontrollably. I did not know what to do. And I needed him to just leave. And just imagine that, like, that's the person that you love and you're screaming at them and you're telling them, get out. Like, no, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. Like, you can't hurt me. And it's like, you are such I remember those PTSD episodes. And I do remember that you taught me to put ice cubes in my hand when I would go through those episodes. And I think we'll just get into that a little bit more down in the episode of like all the tricks and tips that I was able to learn for myself. But yes, you're right. I invested in you because I saw the life you were living. I seen how you got onto the other side. I seen who you were. And I said, I'm going to invest into someone that I want to become. I want to invest in someone who is where I want to be. And you're right. That's how you look for a life coach.
Yeah.
I did not look into a first life coach. I was desperate. I had the money to invest. She took advantage of that. The fact that the money was there, and it was just so. And I knew I knew something wasn't right when every first of the month she asked me to pay. And it was like, can you make that payment? Can you make that payment? And hey, I didn't understand that because I didn't know what a money wound was. And I didn't know that I had
Mm.
to, that I was dealing with that.
Yeah.
So guess what? I thought, oh, I need to give her the money because she needs to pay for something. We were on the same frequency of
Yeah. Yeah.
that I was scared to give to her, but I was like, she needs it though. She needs it. She's in lack, right? Like she needs it. She needs it more than me because she's helping me. So we're on the same frequency. Like I should have known. But again, I didn't understand frequencies in that time. I did not have the knowledge that I have today.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to that money wound because that's a huge one. That's a huge one because and my question to you was like, what was the biggest block for you, even though you knew you wanted to work with me, you knew you needed help? It was the money wound, right? Because again, finding a quality life coach is not cheap and it shouldn't be because if, this is somebody that's helping you guide you in your life and you don't want to get that on discount, right? Because then the quality of the work that you're getting is probably not up to par or also discounted. So I've made big investments, obviously huge, I would say in the tens of thousands of dollars at this point, I would say beyond 50K like in my lifetime, which is actually a little bit in this industry. That's actually not a lot because I don't invest in a lot of people because for that same reason, I'm always looking into people's lives, right? I'm like, no, I don't think I'm going to trust myself here. But the investment into self-development is a big one that I think just a lot of people can't justify in their mind. They're like, oh, I'll go on vacation, I'll buy a new iPhone, I'll get a new car, right? Like I'll do all these things that, look shiny on the external level, that look good to society, that make me feel like I'm doing something, right? That I'm achieving something. But internally I'm dying. And internally I'm crumbling mentally, emotionally. But as long as the things look good on the outside, I'm doing good, right? Like, or I'm keeping up. Um, but the best investment is always in yourself. And I believe that because when I was dead broke and I had to invest in my life coach, which was, I believe, the initial investment was like 11,000. Um, and I financed all of that on my credit cards. And I was, waitressing, making barely $200-300 a night, trying to pay this debt off. But that helped me step into who I was meant to be in this world, help me build a business, help me become an entrepreneur. And I've worked for myself ever since. Do I regret that investment? Absolutely not. But a lot of people will block themselves from that initial investment, right? That's going to quantum leap them into the reality in which they're so abundant that doesn't even mean anything anymore, And it's such a threshold that people can't break through. So tell me a little bit about how you kind of broke through that because I know we had to do some finagling financially for you to get there. But like, what was it for you as you worked through that money wound? Because part of working through the money wound is actually looking at it and saying, okay, this money is not a barrier. This fear of lack and scarcity is not real. And the amount of money I have in my bank account doesn't define me, which is a huge thing that everybody's like, how much money you have defines who you are and what you're worth in society. And you have to really untangle a lot of these beliefs. So tell me a little bit how that worked for you.
Oh, I love this story. I love this story. Let me tell you about my money wound and how Diana really helped me get out of it. And I'll even share a story of like, I knew I was out of it. I knew I was completely just, that wound was gone. So the money wound, that was a time in my life where when I would go up to the cashier and pay, I would feel all of my whole body and everything, especially in my stomach, just like contract. Like it would just get so tight. And I felt so much fear when I would purchase anything, even if it was for my own entertainment, even if it was for my health. It was such a fear. Like I could not spend money without thinking, how am I going to get that money back? How am I going to get that money back? Right? So investing into you was extremely, extremely hard. I mean, I must have had to like jump up and down before making the purchase. I put it on 3 different credit cards, and I'm so grateful that you allowed me to do that. And I did not have the money at the time, but you would keep affirming, I promise you, you will make this money back like within, and I think it's because you knew me from the past and you knew my story, you already knew everything, and we were already had so much trust. But Diana told me, you will make this money back. Not maybe within the first 3 months, maybe you will. I don't have a timeline, but you will make this money back. And I put all of my trust in Diana. I said, I trust her so much. I will make this money back. And I kept affirming myself that I will make this money back. I can pay this off. This is my opportunity. And healing the money wound had a lot to do with not just affirming, money loves me and I love money, like in the mirror. Did it work? Yes, it did work. That's something that really does work, but it was journaling about it. It was spending money and not making that purchase until I felt 100% FES in my body. And I kept making those purchases that way as we were healing it. And I also went into your quantum course. It was like quantum wealth course.
Yeah, so my quantum wealth manifestation course. Yeah, you did that live with us.
Yeah, and let me be honest. I was in that course, and I had no idea what she was talking about. I did not relate, but I knew I had this money wound. I had all of the practices. I had everything. And it wasn't until I started to work with you that everything started to come to me and I understood. And I said, money is energy. Money is like, everything started to like click, right? Money's a frequency. I'm just not on the frequency of receiving. And again, I was on this frequency of like only receiving from this stream of income from my job only. And my job has to be able to give me everything that it can so I can, sustain my lifestyle. And I remember you telling me, open yourself to receive from all streams of income, even the ones that don't even exist yet. And I thought it was the craziest thing ever. I said, where do you talk? There is no other stream of income. There is not. Because it was invisible, right?
Yeah.
Getting connected to the quantum work that I didn't know about. I didn't know that I was already wealthy in the quantum. I didn't know that I already had everything that I've ever wanted in the quantum, and that I just needed to connect my frequency and believe that it was going to come down. So I would do this thing every morning, and I said, I open myself to receive from all streams of income, even the ones that don't exist. And let me tell you that 3 months working into with Diana, I had a $9,000 check that came to me out of nowhere for a car accident that happened 4 years ago.
Wow.
And that's when I knew. I said, she's onto something. She's onto something, and I like it. So, it was so much practices that needed to be done. I was so closed. I wasn't willing to honestly receive more than just my paycheck. And I didn't even believe that I can just get money for no reason. I didn't believe it. I thought we had to work hard. You got to put in the work day in, day out in your masculinity. Let's go labor work and make that money. Never did I think that all I needed to do was get my frequency and my energy right and attract it. And let me tell you, when I learned that, now I'm, it's just falling out of the sky, honestly. Literally, it's falling out of the sky now.
I love hearing that so much. So we've been talking a lot about the quantum, and maybe, for people that are listening, maybe they're like, what the fuck are they talking about? So uh, we are energetic beings. We live in an energetic realm of this world. And although we can't see it, touch it, identify it with our eyes, it's very much real and is very much the currency that runs our universe. And I'm in the middle of launching a program right now called Alchemy, where I go into all of this, into vibration, frequency, how to tune your energy, how to create and manifest from this space. So if you have no idea what we're talking about and you're interested in that, definitely go look into that. However, there's a quote that I'm including in it. It's like, this universe belongs to the magicians of vibration, frequency, and energy, right? And when you really understand that, I love that the word magician is in there, because then you start to really feel like I am the creator of my reality. I can literally attract anything I want into my life. I can create anything. You are so tapped into your power. But there is a lot of, for you especially, and for me, and for most people, of healing and reprogramming work that needs to happen for you to believe that you're worthy, believe that you have that power, you possess that power. It's not outside of you. Nobody can give it to you. You have to access it yourself. And there's a lot of shedding that needs to happen before you can really touch that part of yourself, right? There's a lot of, depending on what you've gone through in your life, and I'm sure people have had, even more horrific stories than ours, that you really have to untangle and release, because the more that you have been through in your life, the more that you dampen and darken that power, that inner light, that inner strength, and that inner ability to create and manifest. And so your ability to manifest is almost as equal as the amount in which you've healed. And so the healing and the manifestation work, I feel, for me and for a lot of people that I've seen, go hand in hand. And so the quantum field is the field of infinite possibilities and the field of infinite potentiality. It's the realm in which all things exist. And how we then call those, what we call, it's where things are before they manifest, right? Before I had a multi six-figure business, it existed in the quantum field, even though I was broken in reality, right? I was broken in the 3D, and I was sad and disempowered. It was just like, I had to then attune myself. I had to work on my self-confidence. I had to work on my belief in myself. I had to work on, my inner power for me to raise my vibration, raise my frequency, to get in alignment with the version of myself that could hold a multi six-figure business, that could hold multiple clients, that could hold retreats and do all these things. I had to transform myself first into that person. Change happened within, and then externally, that change manifested, right? It became real. It became tangible in our reality. And so that's a lot of the work that you and I have gone into, and all the work that I do with my clients. So for you, I know we've done so much work together. What was the biggest thing that you took away from our time together? Like I know there's a lot, but what was I would say, if you want to maybe do one top three, we can probably cover that. But I would say the biggest thing that for you is was absolutely life changing for you.
I'm going to do the top three, but I do have a top one. And I think it's something that I still talk about in all of my life coaching sessions. Like, I now work with an accountability coach. So it's not a trauma coach anymore, right? It's an accountability coach for my goals and moving forward. And I say this in all of my sessions. It's the foundation. I build a solid foundation, a foundation where now that I go through trauma, I go through life, I navigate through emotions, I go through change, opportunity, everything you can name in life. I have such a solid foundation that I will not just tip over and feel like the whole world is ending as it's happening. So that foundation has got me to move forward from things that I didn't even think I can move forward on my own. Honestly, Honestly, I'm like a statue now, and nothing can really break me. Yes, I go through, bad days still. I'm not perfect either, but I have this sense of knowing who I am. I have this sense of being able to validate myself. I have this sense of knowing my truth. I have this sense of loving who I am. Now I participate in everything that I can in the world because I love who I show up as. I cannot thank you more for this foundation, because if it wasn't for this foundation, I would not be taking on these opportunities that I'm taking on now. The doors that opened up for me, that I never thought I would be opening up until I worked with you. And then the other two that I love still talking about it is law of attraction. I knew about it, but again, I would talk about it like I knew what I was talking about, but I didn't know, I just trying to fit in. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to be someone. But now, asking what the law of attraction is, it's my whole life. I'm constantly attracting what I want. I'm constantly receiving manifestations. This podcast was a manifestation that I had put out to the quantum 2 years ago. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I really want to be on her podcast. And I don't know what that looks like, but there you go. That's what I want. Guess what? 2 years later, it happened. There is no timeline of a how or anything to do with manifestations coming in, but I was able to tap into my power, that power, that core that we all have to be able to create what we want. And that was the second. And the third, it has to be the fight or flight survival no more.
Yeah.
Now, when I feel negative emotion, now when I wake up and I'm in chaos, now that's unfamiliar. And guess what? It used to be the other way around. Now what's familiar is being happy. It's doing what I love. It's being who I am. It's, you perceive me and people are always going to perceive you away, and that's okay. That's their reality. And I'm okay with that. And arguing with my boyfriend, we're just kind of like, that's your reality. This is mine. And you're valid and I'm valid. Let's move forward. So it's that. It's that now when I feel a negative emotion, I'm like, oh, okay, girl, let's, back to, let's meditate. How are we feeling? What's coming up? Let's give it space. Let's feel it. Let's put on some tunes, whatever you have to do, Joss, to get you back to your true self, because this is temporary. And when I learned that this was temporary, the negative, the chaos, everything, I learned to navigate through it. But I used to live through it. So that switching, that was enough for me, honestly. Everything else is a reward. Reward.
Yeah. Yeah. You used to drown through it, and now you're like the captain of the ship. You're like, I know how to get through this. I know how to navigate this. And before you're like, I'm drowning. And it feels very real. If you are going through that right now, it's very real. But I think when you're equipped with the tools, you're like, oh, I can get through anything. I can survive through anything. And you become like unstoppable, and you really believe, you really are in touch with that resilient part of your spirit that is like, I will not only survive, I will thrive, I will overcome. I'm going to come out on top, and everything gets to, really work in my favor, both positive and negative of life, right?
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, I now am I'm living through my purpose. And I did not know that I needed to get through all of, like working with you, I thought it would look different. I thought it's when Jocelyne is healed, she's ready to step into her power. I thought I was going to come to you with all of this already, with this foundation. And I said, I'm not going to invest into Diana until I have this foundation. Guess what? No, no. What I wanted to show up as with Diana how I wanted to show up, how I expected in my mind, is what happened after working with Diana.
Mm.
So I was like, I should have invested in her so long ago. But again, everything's in alignment, everything is in divine timing. It's all meant to happen now.
Yeah, yeah. As it's 2:22 right now, we are in the right place at the right time, exactly where we're meant to be. So share with the audience now how that has transformed, kind of like what you're doing for work, how you're showing up, because I know you've stepped into wanting to be a coach, wanting to help other people, wanting to share this work, this medicine. And that for me is like it's everything, right? Because it's like once you really, like once you found the keys to unlock power, happiness, fulfillment, like to keep it to yourself is selfish, right? You got to share it with people. So, yeah, tell me a little bit how that journey's going.
So after Diana, I remember like it, I should have even talked about this, but it was so hard to leave Diana, right? Because I said, am I okay by myself? Do I still need her? And that was the test. I said, I am okay by myself. I do trust myself. And it's okay to let go because she served her purpose in me. I graduated, basically. I graduated is how I like to put it. So after that, again, manifesting still everything that I want. I manifested the same exact payment that I used to give for my life coaching to you was the same exact payment that I now give to what I'm in Jay Shetty's life coaching program. So it was like an even exchange and it was going into the next level. I want to get accredited as a life coach just because I want to be universal. It has nothing to do with trying to I have a certification you don't know. No. I still have my own story and I have my own experience that I can connect with others that I may be able to help from my own trauma. But I really want to be universal. Just like you said, I don't want to gatekeep. I want to tell everybody this is possible. You can change your identity. You can become someone different. So now I'm stepping into the world of just serving, giving back, because I've received so much from medicine, from life coaching, from just in general. I cannot emphasize how much I've received in my healing journey, that now healing the past and being in the present. We're never done healing, but now I'm at least healing the present, as things come.
Yeah.
Now I am in the space of giving back, being at service for others, showing up for someone who I used to be 5-6 years ago, right? Just like
Yes.
a total everyone who I mirror myself in. I'm here to give you my soul, my heart, my integrity, everything that I to get you to transmute your darkness into light. That's it.
It's beautiful. And you know what? That for me is something that I would like to also share with the audience to make sure that there's a lot of coaches out there that will try to keep their clients down or underneath them so that they can continue to pay them, right? To continue to have them like, you're not ready yet. Like, if I'm going to tell you you're not ready yet, I'm fucking honest, right? Like, but there's a lot of coaches out there, and because I've had this happen to me that they were threatened by my power. And so when I would try to lead them, they're like, oh no, you need more this, you need more that, right? And it was like so for me rewarding when you came to me and you were like, hey, like, I think I want to trust myself on this journey. I want to move forward. And I was like, good. That's the point. That was the point, right? Like for me, like my and part of my coach trauma, this came up in a ceremony for me when I was in the jungle, was like when I was dealing, processing the trauma with my old coach. And I was like, I heard a voice and she said, well, why don't you do it differently then? Why don't you empower people to step into their power and help them in a different way if you didn't like this experience? And I'm like, okay, I will, And now that I'm actually doing that and like I'm having that mirror experience, right? Where like I tried to leave my coach and it was such a different energy when I tried to do that. It was such a negative, it was such a, like how dare you, But when you came to me and I was just like, this is great. I'm proud of you. Like, I wanted this for you. I want you to step into your power. I want you to lead yourself. I want you to trust yourself so much that, like, you don't need me anymore, because that's not the type of codependent relationship I want with the people that I'm helping and supporting. Like, I want to see you thrive, because that is the that is a true testament of my medicine, as you embody your medicine and you share that with other people, and it just gets to continue to have an infinite ripple effect into the universe. And so it's so beautiful, Jocelyne. I'm so happy to be seeing you blossoming and blooming into yourself and sharing your truth. And um, I'm going to put your social media handle in the show notes so that people can know where to find you. And yeah, I'm just so wonderful to connect with you and just kind of go through our journey together, because it was definitely a special one, our journey together over these past couple of years. But it's been such a blessing to really lead you into your truth, into your power, because I just saw so much of myself in you, and I just knew that I was like, oh. And I will say, in agreement with you, you are the type of client that, like, when I gave you something, you were like right on it. And like, I will say, I have, hundreds of clients at this point, and results are not guaranteed because they're dependent on the work and the dedication and the discipline of the mentee that's coming into this space. I'm always going to serve the work, and how you take that and how you then, funnel it through your own system and through your own inner guidance and how you apply it will determine your results. And so I never guarantee anything, but I would say with you, because you were such a dedicated and like person to this work, that like you were just like like expanded at an exponential rate, where I was like, this is amazing. Like, even I was watching you, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I'm like, I wish all my clients were doing it at this pace, but everybody's at their own pace, of course. But it just really shows that, like, when you're ready, like, you can only be ready when you're ready.
Yeah.
And when you're ready and that work is there, it can quantum leap you. You can collapse time. People think, oh, it's going to take me years to get there. That's not true. It's
Mhm.
not true. It's really dependent on you and how you want to really do the work. And the work is not easy, but it's worth it.
Yes, it is. And it has been a pleasure because honestly, I made that investment and I said, I'm giving it my all, my all. And I did not expect to what happened. I never expected it. It was just like I got to meet myself all over again and fall in love with myself. And that's all I really want everyone to experience. Not, love in general. It's beautiful to experience, but loving yourself, that's something.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Well, I am so happy that you came on this episode, and thank you everyone for tuning into another episode of the Urban Indigo podcast. Please leave a review if you felt anything from this episode impacted you. Share this with someone you love, and yeah, connect with either me or Jocelyn on Instagram if anything that you want to share with us. Any questions that you have, we're here, lovingly in service always. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.